Holbrook New Media.
This is Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Welcome to the audio feed from holbrooknewmedia.com. Today, Geoff and Jeffrey, the weekly catch-up. We hope you enjoy the audio version. If you want to see what we look like, I will embed the video for this episode at holbrooknewmedia.com.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the weekly catch-up. We've missed 2 weeks, so we're all excited now. So here's the intro. And joining us this week, as always, as always, apart from the last 2 weeks, because none of us were joining us the last 2 weeks, but it's Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Good morning, Jeffrey.
Good morning to you, sir. I was watching the Tech Down Over this week, and
yes.
I noticed that you got your official Klingon keyboard.
Oh, you did notice that, did you?
Oh, yeah, he was talking about,
Prepared for that. Hang on, let's see. Not that one. Let's see this one. What's this? Is that it?
Yeah, down at Kronos, the home planet of the Klingons.
Yeah,
that's fancy.
Yeah, that's the one there.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, so I got that. So you've been watching me, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. The gadget lady was on there.
Yep, Gina Schreck's been a good friend over the years. I actually met up with Gina in Las Vegas a couple of years ago when we all had a conference together, so we have caught up. But Rick used to do a show with Gina every week, and they got to 100 shows, and then it ended. So we was a bit worried. Is that the end of Tech Down Over? Because we got to that was our 100th show, you see.
Yeah, the threshold.
Threshold. I said no. I said as long as you don't mind doing it, I don't. I said as long as you don't get fed up with me, because I said it doesn't make too much of a difference. But one thing that Gina said that was quite interesting was, the YouTube, not the YouTube. I keep saying YouTube, the Facebook Live. Mm-hmm. And, getting the audience on there, like she said, she'd had 200 viewers already on that because she was streaming her part on Facebook Live. So,
okay.
I might even have a test at that, see if we can have a go at that one night, because it's not as though there's a lot of people watching live here, is there?
Well, like you say, I work night shift. I have a lot of friends that work night shift. If they happen to be off, then, somebody might pop in. But with the normal everyday stuff, one thing I haven't done is refresh the screen and brought up but I have there we go. Now I can go to it. Yay. Okay, there we are. And the usual activity in the chat room. But I have a girl that I dated in high school, and she gets on there and plays the piano and sings church songs, that she was raised with and stuff like that. And buddy, she's getting tons of people that are just, she's starting to get quite the audience.
I should start playing on there, because you either get people watching because you're really good, or people watch because you're really bad. And I think I'd get them because I was really bad. So I've got to look at this fool. And I thought I should do something.
Well,
like
for her, the audience that's going for her are the Christian people, the religious people, Christian people. And so she sings songs, and she does some. She'll pick a scripture and expound on it and do some teaching and stuff like that. And buddy, she's on there, several times a week, playing the music and talking about the Bible and different stuff like that. And like you say, she's starting to get quite the following on there with that.
Well, what I was trying to do, like you saw, I've got the new Kronos, the core keyboard, but it's a full 88 key, the full heavy touch keys, so like a proper piano. That's nice. My goal was to go back to the beginning and learn it correctly, because I don't know about with your playing and that, but you learn it and you just do it all the wrong way. It's a bit like touch typing. You know how when some people, they're just 2 fingers and get by and hit all the things, but it's not very efficient until you stop looking at fingers and using all the correct fingers. And so I'm starting from the beginning, doing all the scales with the correct fingering. But you just seem to forget that when you stop learning at a young age. It's like, I know better than that. And now you know the importance of scales when you do them for the correct fingering, because if you get the scales right, that's sort of the key. And I've just sort of going back to square one, so I'm not playing a lot lately because I thought I don't want to be playing it in the incorrect way. And I've been watching a few different things, and they said people actually learn how to play badly. Said because you remember to do, and he said you remember you always hit that wrong note, so you always do.
Okay.
He said people, it's funny, you learn the bad things, and you just do that all the time. But that's why if you get the best foundation, you should be better. Well, that's my theory anyway. So I'm trying to learn on that.
I will be honest with you. I was talking one time to a local fireman, that just lived in our area, and he said that they never. I was talking to a local fireman in our area, and he was saying that they don't like hiring people from the local volunteer fire departments because of all the bad habits that they learn. I mean, that's sad. And so, then they've got to, well, I guess the term would be unlearn the things that they've learned to do incorrectly. And a lot of times they don't understand the reason for it because, the tree never fell on them, but still they shouldn't have done what they did, because it may someday. I mean, just a lot of different things that the volunteer fire departments, they'll do things if trees fall across the road, they're out there clearing them, and more than just fires, they're more of a community helping organization. And, so yeah, you can, if without instruction, it's very possible to learn badly. And then trying to do it correctly later can be quite the challenge. It's worse than being completely ignorant of it,
And that's the thing, is like they were saying, if you just did it in the right place in the first place, you'd do it okay. But you're better off not knowing it and just starting from the beginning. And sorry, I've got a cold again, so I keep clicking off every now and then to have a good cough, you see, without doing it on. But we're changing the subject. As I said, it's summer here. And so what we had last Thursday when we missed the show was it was an overnight low of 75.2. That was the overnight low in your temperature.
Okay. I have a little chart of my own over here right now. I got it just a few minutes ago.
That was the I've got to have a cough, sorry.
I'll go right ahead.
So what it was, an overnight low of 75.2. And then Thursday's top temperature was 62.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was hot overnight, and it got colder for the top temperature for the next day.
Okay, then for you, that would have been around 22 and then 17 at the 62 range.
Right. And then yesterday, yesterday? It was 96.
Oh.
We had a hot day, 96.
Wow.
And today top temperature 68. So that's why no wonder we get all colds all of a sudden, because you're in air conditioning. Like yesterday, it was so hot, but at work I had a jacket on because I was freezing with the air conditioning on and that. So it's amazing. That's why I've had about 3 colds this year. It's incredible. I've never usually have any, but it's with the temperature going up and down, and stuff. But anyway, so
well,
that's why
I was going to say, go ahead.
No, that's why I keep up. I'm not going at the moment. So.
Oh, no problem. The around here, we're going into winter, which is interesting since we're on the other side of the globe here. So we had a day the other day that was a couple days ago that was 55 degrees, which for that would be around 13.
Yeah, but that's good for you.
But they're saying in a couple days it's supposed to be around 8 degrees around here. Yeah, which is minus. Mine only goes down to 14 degrees on the Fahrenheit scale. So, so that's going to be pretty cold. But winter actually starts, I believe it's the 21st. It's a 3 days before Christmas is when winter starts.
23rd usually, isn't it? I know it is in England. It's 23rd is the official. That's where we can't handle that here. We just like our seasons to be straightforward. So December, it's summer. We don't wait for the proper one, which I know I used to as a kid, because we came from England to here when I was a kid, and then I couldn't understand why does it only get to winter at the 23rd of December? That's silly in the middle of nearly at the end of the month. So why don't they just do it all? But then that's just us and the way we do things here as well.
Well, like you say, it's home, and that's what you're used to, and it's comfortable. Nothing wrong with that.
No, that's right. And as I was saying, so I'm getting stuck back into the keyboard But the only problem is, as I said, with trying to do all the right things, you can't just go off and go play what you were doing before because you're playing it all wrong. So I've got to relearn everything else. And also as well with the piano, relearning all the chords, because the way I'd learnt them was always different fingering and different ways. And now it's the same fingers, same notes, but a different way. Like it's just learning the thing again, which is quite strange.
Yeah, learning them correctly is very important. Simply because, I've never played keyboard or piano or anything, but learning them correctly is because the transition from one to the next one is facilitated by doing it correctly. I mean, this is science here. And so, the ergonomics of it all, what you do with your fingers, the ergonomics of it all are created by if you do the fingering correctly. Because if you do something that's easier to do this really tough one and you do it differently, but then there's a delay in a transition to the next chord, simply because you were doing it, cross-fingered or something, whatever you were doing. But if you do it exactly correctly according to the correct way to do it, then you can move, you'll get the hang of it and you'll move smoothly from one chord to the next.
And it's the sort of thing when you've been doing it for years, playing different things, and you think, why didn't I know this fundamental thing? How you just get something really fundamental, and after trying just a week or two, trying this practice, trying a new regime and getting into it, I've picked something up that I thought, if I'd known that first off, I would have been known so much better. Like I never realized the relationship between the scales and the music and the keys.
Oh,
and I thought, you idiot. Of course. When you sort of think, that's just staring at you in the face. Why didn't you ever see that? That's how you do the fingering, because it says what key it's in, and that tells you. And I thought, but you usually just pick it up and do what you can get all the notes. You think you're fine, but you make it up and you don't do it correctly.
And
usually
you feel you're doing so well,
And I know when I started learning, it was sort of then they start going all modern type. Well, when I was a kid, the old traditional piano playing. Oh no, that's too stuffy. You learn it this way and do that. They didn't bother too much about scales, but they're the fundamentals. If you don't get them right, there's no point.
Yeah, and that's the foundation of your house there.
And that's right. And that's why I'm going back to square one. And you need an incentive, and that's why I got the Cronus, because it's overpriced for what I need. But it's the sort of thing, if I bought something that was just a keyboard just to do that, I'd probably say, I'll leave it, I won't do it. But now I've spent that money on that, I've got to invest the time. So I'll do it. Even before I bought it, I was sitting, committing to at least minimum half an hour a day to do scales. But like they say, at least do 10 minutes and finish off nicely, and do one scale a week. Don't push it. Just do one a week.
And like I say, then time passes and all of a sudden you realize, hey, I've got this, and you don't know exactly when it happened.
And the thing is, I just couldn't believe that how much after doing that, I played a piece again and thought, hey, that made a big difference. And before I've been a keyboard player, but never a proper piano player. And I'm picking that up, but that's made a big difference to that. But it's a different way of playing, and that's why I got the Cronus, because I wanted something different as well. But it covers it's just a fantastic machine. But I won't tell you that I did have a problem with it.
What happened?
It wouldn't work when I got it home. And, I switched it on and it had a hissy fit.
Oh, I thought only people had hissy fits in West Virginia.
Yeah. And I thought maybe I've just switched because it set on a reboot, and I switched it back off and switched it on, and it came on okay.
Oh, okay.
And then next time, it did the same thing, and I had to switch it off and switch it on. And where I got it from, the fellow was ever so good. He replaced it, and I haven't had the problem. And I said, look, it's not your problem. You do have these things happen every now and then. The only thing that annoyed me was just that you see the keyboard. It's nearly as tall as me in the box. Well, it's as tall as me. And trying to get it up these stairs in the box was not an easy feat, I tell you. So when I had the thought, putting it back in the box and taking it back, I thought, getting it down them stairs and getting it in the car as well. I thought, my goodness, how am I going to manage that? but I did manage to do it. So,
And then you had to bring it in again.
Well, and then I brought it in and then I had to, and then I got back and thought, I better have a rest before I do that. I thought, no, just get it done. Just get it over and done with. And so I'm really happy now that it hasn't had a problem on that. But I mean, you get that with all electronics and that, and especially with this, it's a computer with keys on it, really, because it's does so much in there. But I'm very happy with it at the moment. So I'm keeping up my practice. But now I've just got to learn all the ins and outs of it, because it just does a million and one things. Like, you can layer so many sounds onto to one key, and you can do all the splits on the keyboard as well.
Mm-hmm.
But not just the splits. As I said, you can assign different things to different areas of the keyboard as well. So it's just quite fantastic what it does have on there. So
sounds like I mean, the learning of it is what's going to be so fascinating for you. I mean, it's just not going to, and the fact that you're not going to solve this puzzle and it's suddenly going to be over with next month, and then you have to go on to a new challenge. This is something that you'll just keep working on and just enjoying, for long term here.
Yeah, well, it better be, but that's why I like to have the nice toys, because I thought, well, if you invest that, it gives you a real big incentive. It's a bit like when I had the horse. You're paying that much each week. I had that incentive to ride 5 days a week. Because why waste that sort of money and you not use the damn thing? And one of the things I was listening to somebody else is one of the same sort of principles for when you're riding, and that is, finish off on a happy note. If you can't just do it with something you can, because as I said, the brain remembers the last 5 minutes of what you're doing. And it's the same thing with horses. You can be riding, if they're giving you a horrible time and you get them going good, finish on that. Don't finish on a bad note, because they'll remember, and all they'll remember the next time is a horrible experience, and they'll continue on from that. And it's the same thing with you learning. If you remember the horrible way you finished off last time, you'll start off that way. So don't keep pushing yourself until you do get bad. If you're doing it well and you've done your 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of your scales that you're supposed to do, leave it. Don't keep going until you mess it up.
Sounds like that sounds like a real good philosophy. I'm definitely going to have to keep that in mind.
Yeah,
sounds like a great thing. I did something since we have done a show. I have actually guest co-hosted on the Cinema Toast Crunch podcast. A couple of their episodes, yeah. And, you just review a movie. And what's funny was both the movies, the first one was a 1925 movie called Battleship Potemkin. It was actually a silent movie. And it was pretty much a Russian propaganda film. Was what it amounted to. And, but it was really, really well done. All of us rated it very highly. And then the next one was one that I actually chose myself. It was called Enemy at the Gates. And it was, believe it or not, about the German siege of Stalingrad back during World War II. And so we found ourselves 2 weeks in a row cheering for the communists.
Oh,
it's like,
so I'm from West Virginia.
Yeah, it's like, but the communists were the good guys, so you cheered for them. But it was a great time. It really was. Really enjoyed hanging with them and doing it.
I was going to say, as long as one of your criticisms wasn't that the sound wasn't very good on the silent, because they said I couldn't hear a word of the sound.
It had some music to that, but it was orchestra music. It wasn't the person banging a piano in there, like they used to do in the old days. But and the music was just perfect for what was going on. And honestly, you see things. You've seen this probably several times in movies. Most of the time, all of a sudden something is happening, and all of a sudden and there's this big set of stairs, big wide stairs, and the woman's at the top with the baby. She gets knocked down, and the baby carriage in slow motion is going down the stairs with the baby in it. That was first done in that movie.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And it's been used in several movies since, and a lot of the different camera angles and different things that they did. They were the first ones to ever think of them and do them in that movie. And it was really, really well done. But I really enjoyed hanging with them. And by the way, people that will be cinematoastcrunch.libsyn.com. It's Libsyn as in Liberated Syndication. Libsyn is what Libsyn is. They're also on Facebook, Cinema Toast Crunch, and they review movies of all kinds, different kind of movies. Some of them are family friendly, some of them aren't. They joke that they have Geoffable movies that are family friendly, and it's good for me, so I might show up and do one if it's family friendly, but some of the other ones I would not be as apt to be there and be a part of. And they joke about it, but they don't make fun of me or anything. It's we had a real good time. Huh?
Because everybody has their different tastes. It's
Oh,
be
sure.
a pretty strange world if you all like the same thing. Well, if they did, there would be no point in reviewing things, would there? Because they said everybody's going to like it because everybody's the same. So.
What's really cool, I was able to bring in one of my friends who is now a permanent part of the show. He is also a major movie buff, but he has a different turn to him than the major, movie expert before, and that's Brett Lewis. He's on the show now, and he knows so much about movies, the directors and stuff, and so now they're working off of each other, and it's really, really helped the show. Plus, they've got a new place. They bought him a new house. They're the ones that got flooded out, so they have another house now, and now he has a podcasting studio upstairs, and they're getting their sound towards sounding really good. A little bit of sound treatment in the room, put up a curtain in front of them, a little bit of sound treatment in the room, and it's just going to be golden. It's going to be great. And I've been working with them with their sound now for, a few months, and as they can afford things. Of course, they got flooded out in the middle of it, so it's kind of hard to buy sound treatment whenever you're trying to replace your house. But anyway, they're doing great. Again, Cinema Toast Crunch, you can find them on Facebook and several other places once you get there. It seems like most of the interaction happens on Facebook. But that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And we also, the Geoff and Jeffrey show, actually got a shout out on.
Oh, did
yeah, I mean on that show, of course, because I was there. But
you shouted out, yes.
There's a show out of Chicago called, let me see, okay, the Brit and Yankee Craft Beer Pubcast.
Oh,
and so at the beginning of this last show that they put out, it's their Christmas show, I had sent him an email and was talking to him about some stuff, and it's really interesting to hear. It's not a bunch of guys getting drunk on a thing, but what's happening is they are actually, like, they'll do 4 or 5. And the Brit guy is an import from Britain, obviously. His name's Phil. And then the other guy on it is from Finland. He's actually a brewer. And on this particular episode, some of the guests were actually another brewer and what he called a publican, which is a guy that owns a public house or a pub. Yeah. And so, he they were all there. And so you've got people who really know what's going on. And so what they would do would take they take craft beers, and they'll take one and open it up and pass it around to 4 or 5 people that happen to be around. So it's not like they're just guzzling, but they're doing it a lot like a wine tasting would be. And they're talking about, the different stuff. And okay, what's that smell like? Okay. And they describe it, and it looks like this and that. But the banter between them is funny, and, I at the beginning of my, email, I said something about, that I was raised in an anti-alcohol culture. And you're like, oh, so they were talking about that. And so, but they were, I mean, they were just really, and then he talked about the Geoff and Jeffrey show, and said he was going to come over and listen to it on the podcast end of it. And it looked like to me, he came and maybe downloaded 3 of the episodes. So,
that's good. Hopefully we're entertaining in that. But yes, well, I was brought up in a house that had beer and all that in there, but it probably put me off it altogether because I've never really been a drinker. So,
like you say, I never really remember. I mean, I never tasted beer till I was 50. It's basically curiosity, and and I'm not interested in drinking a 6-pack, but
no.
Like you say, a craft beer, I've never had one within a month of another one. It's just curiosity, because it's something we were never around. And, it's not anything that would ever make you feel any differently, because I've never done anything that would make me alter my mood or alter my feeling. I've never done anything like that. Just curious how it tastes. And like you say, it's kind of hard to find anything that really taste the way you could actually tolerate it too much. It's
I said, I think the only I've had a can of beer, and I remember it was about 113 degrees, and there was nothing else around, and there was a cold can of beer, so I drank it because that was about.
Yeah, there you go. It sure beats
I didn't like the
dehydrating
taste,
too
but
bad.
it's nothing, yes. But I thought this is what people really enjoy. Think, well, that was nice. But I thought, to me, I don't know why, but just my taste buds never seem to. I don't know. No matter how good it is, I've even tried. People got me some Grange Hermitage, the champagne.
Oh, okay.
And that's supposed to be, that's about $700 a bottle. I bet.
What a gift!
But the mate, because they said, "Oh, have it, you'll like this," and I thought, for that amount of money, it tastes like grape juice.
Yeah, that's grape juice with a kick, is all it is.
Well, for that sort of money, I'd want it to do wonderful things, but it was. I thought, no, not for me, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
well, like saying, in the culture I was raised in, there was always no alcohol, no anything. And the Bible basically says it always talks about being deceived by wine. Don't, be not drunk with wine wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit, stuff like that. And it's like, wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging. He who is deceived thereby is not wise. So it's always talking about excessive, but I don't understand. I've never been able to understand how somebody can drink a 6-pack of beer or more. I can't drink that much water or that much pop, like soda. I can't. I don't understand that. And I also don't understand just trying to drink and alter my mood. I could never imagine that. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I've always said that to people as well. Is I said, if you go out to a barbecue, I'll take a litre bottle or 2-litre bottle of Coke, and I can't drink that. But I thought I just can't drink that much. As I said, just for the sake of whether it was doing anything for me or whatever. But I just couldn't drink that much, so I can't. But anyway, that's what they preach today: is drink in moderation. Said they shouldn't be. They should be drinking less anyway. So.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, again, if you take any medication or anything like that, it's not like you can drink alcohol with whatever medication they gave you at the doctor. That's not going to happen either. So I don't know. It's just it really isn't very practical to do drinking. I mean, it's just not. I mean, I guess some people work it in, but I don't know. It just for my life, it just isn't. Aside from any, religious reasons, it's just not practical, to really drink.
I've never done it because, as I said, I'm dead against. I've tried, but I thought never really liked it and never got into it. And because I don't drink, I even got a bit lightheaded on when somebody made a trifle and I didn't realize what it had in it. And and I thought, how ridiculous! Because I thought this has got alcohol in it, hasn't it? So how? It's like I'm gone bright red, can't you see? I'm like blood because I said I can feel that straight away. So
well, growing up, we had a neighbor that was a drunk. Again, this is out in the country, so it's out the way. But you never knew when you were going to find this guy, his car in the ditch line, or him laying off by the side of the road somewhere. One day, my dad and I were walking up the road, and this guy, all of a sudden we heard something in the weeds, and you never know what animal is going to come out of the weeds. So we turned and looked, and there was Mr. Sutherland laying over in the briar patch. Greenbriers. We have something around here called greenbriers, and it's a very stiff, heavy briar with very sticky spines on it, and they're prolific. I mean, they just go everywhere, and they'll latch onto you and really, really cut you if you're not careful. And so you can identify them easily because they're kind of a bright green, but it's and he's laying over in the middle of a greenbrier patch, and we were trying to figure out how he got in there. It looked like they'd grown up around him. So I don't know how long he'd been laying there, but my dad said, "Well, Mr. Sutherland, what are you doing over there in that greenbrier patch?" And he said, "I'm over here in this greenbrier patch." Anyway, so poor guy, we cut the briars out from around him and walked him up the mountain, up past our house and on up the mountain around him, and set him down on his front porch. My dad said, "You want to us to help you in the house?" "Oh, I'm okay. So we went ahead, and as we turned around to walk home, my dad never was one to yell at you, "If you ever drink," never. But he said, "Now you see where drinking will get you?"
Was that the moonshine?
Yes, I do.
Was that the moonshine?
No, beer, I guess. I don't know. We were never around when he was doing it, but you find him drunk all the time, constantly having to pull his car out of the ditch line or something. But the next morning we went to school and he was still sitting on his porch.
Oh, so he hadn't moved, so it just collapsed
Still
there and
sitting on his
faked out.
porch where we put him at. And yes, I do see where drinking will get you. It was like, that was a good object lesson. We had one, out just right out the road from where we lived at.
I think people are a lot more sensible these days than they used to be, even when I was a kid. And I really used to hate that time because to fit in, you had to be, do that. And I never liked doing that. So I never really fitted in with that sort of crowd. So I never minded getting older when you get past that age where you don't have to, where it's not a thing to do that. But then again, what I did to rebel, I took up smoking in my younger days, which that was a bad thing, but I gave that up at 38.
That's good.
But that was another thing that I got into because so you could fit in. So, but nowadays you're not allowed to talk about them, about cigarettes and promote them. And like here, with all the cigarette packets, they're all green.
I know you were telling me about that in one of the earlier shows. Talk about that again. I found that really, really shocking.
Well, they're all green with a mouth, with a cancerous mouth with blood dripping out. It's showing you, mouth cancer on them. So they look disgusting. And that's the whole point. It's to put people off, to say, well, this is what could, end up with it. And they said, you're not going to be swayed by the pretty colored packet anymore. So, yeah.
So that's all by law, right? I mean, it has to be that way.
And you're not allowed to see a packet of cigarettes in the shop. They've got to be behind closed doors and behind. You can't have them in a glass cabinet. They've got to be. You can't see them. Wow. They can open up, get them out, but so people can't see them to sort of encourage them to, which is really good, I think. So if they're trying to discourage them and that, but at first they say, oh, you'll never be able to get that through. But they've had it for a couple of years now with just basic green packet, so you can't. If you've got a packet of cigarettes, it just looks horrible. You're having them with all this horrible picture.
It's like this is you, Well, now we still around here. Again, I've never done any smoking. No, my family has, but there was now. If you go to a convenience store or even to Walmart, one of the large stores, there's a single aisle that you can go through if you want to buy tobacco, and then they have to. And it's all kind of secured and has a, fort around it more or less. And so you have to go through that specific aisle to get it. And then you tell them what you want and they have to go get it for you. And again, I've never messed with tobacco really, but I mean, but that's what happens. People go over there and they say, I want, this particular brand. And then they go and unlock something and get it. And then they, hand it to them.
It's strange though, isn't it? They're trying to discourage all the cigarette smoking, and then they're approving marijuana in California.
Oh yeah, there's several states now that have approved marijuana. I think during this last election, I think there were 4, ballot initiatives in various states, and I think I think there were like 6 of them, and I think 4 approved it and 2 didn't. And that was just votes of the people, where they decided. Somebody gave me a figure the other day. I can't remember how many they are on marijuana. I think it's in Colorado. They're charging a 9% tax, and they did $44 million, I think it was last year, of $45 million of business in marijuana in Colorado. And of course, the government made 9%, I think it is, that they're charging for it. So the government's making a boatload of money, and as soon as the other states see that, and the Bible Belt won't hold it out for long, the other states will approve it too. Here in this state, most of the other states around had lotteries before this state did, and of course, whenever they want to have a lottery, they, there were moral grounds that people were having trouble with it. And when you want to have a lottery, the first thing you do is tell what the fancy stuff you're going to do with the money whenever you get the tax revenue. And, it's going to help senior citizens and help schools and, so the old and the young. Okay, they're going to do that. And what they found out was the states around us had started lotteries, and people were driving over state lines, getting their lottery tickets and sending all this revenue to the other states. And so then they finally talked people into it, and they voted in the lottery. One of the provisions they said was there will never be, and everybody said, oh, the opponents said, oh, it's going to bring in casino gambling and we're going to be a bunch of big gambling. Oh, no, that'll never happen. That'll never happen. 20 years later, the same people who said that it would never happen voted in casino gambling in West Virginia. And, it's progressive. It's all progressive. The point of being a progressive is you don't want anybody to see the progression of what will happen once you open up Pandora's box,
I was seeing one of Donald Trump's appointees. There was a quote from him saying on the radio 2 years ago, he will never do this. He hates this and hates all this, and he's dead against it. Now he's the person running it.
Yes, they seem to be putting people in charge of the various agencies that are vocal opponents of the way those agencies have been run over the last years. And so evidently they plan on going in and reforming the organizations, whatever they are. And so that's I think what the whole point of it is. But there's a major backlash of a bunch of people here in this country who are saying the election needs to be audited, to look forward to see if the Russians influenced it, and all kinds of stuff like that. And basically, for the last couple of elections, there were rumors of people standing around the polls trying to keep people from voting and stuff like that, to make sure Obama got elected, things like that. And nobody ever stood up and said it has to be looked into and we have to make sure that he really is supposed to be president. But buddy, there is a major, major outcry and just hate speech, about this. And, there's even a number, supposedly you can call the government and put your name on a list of people that want the election audited. The only problem is, anything that you do to change the result to get it to what you want it to be this time, those guns will be turned on you the next time.
Yep.
Whenever your guy gets in, or woman, or whoever. Anytime you try to alter the way the government is set up, it'll come right back and bite you whenever you don't want it to. So the more you open up and the more you change the basic structure of what's going on, the more open it is, and it will come back and let you have it later on. So saying that the election is not legitimate and all kinds of stuff like that, it's kind of like, okay, people didn't do that the last 8 years, so what's going on? But it's, and as long as I get the result I want, then the American system works. But if the result wasn't what I wanted, then it's not working anymore.
It's always the case. If the people who were protesting would be happy, and the people who were happy now would be protesting. It doesn't matter.
I don't know, because the people that elected Trump don't spend a whole lot of time protesting. They weren't the protest types. They were the people from out in the country. I could get out and walk around with a sign on my property, and it really wouldn't do much good. It's not like, the street out in front of my house is other people seeing me or anything. So it's, sorry about that. So it's, it's people who live in cities were mostly the people who were going for Hillary. Like half the population of the United States lives in about 10% of the land mass. They just stack them up, in the cities. So the people that voted Trump in all came from rural states and, way out in the countryside. Well, there's not much call for protesting out there simply because nobody would see you. It's not like you can get the news to come out and watch 2 or 3 people run around with signs. It just doesn't happen.
No, but it's strange, as you said, like here, it seems to be the people who protest are just got it in their heads to protest. It doesn't matter what it is, you'll probably find it's the same people protesting about it.
Yeah, it's like down with everything.
We had one a protest here there was all these bike riders, wanting to ban cars and all that. And how did they all get there? By car?
They drove to the protest by car.
They do all these things. And they said that don't even think about the cars are the majority things. But how did you get to there? You didn't all ride your bike into the city to do that. You took a car to get yourself into there. But it's It's a strange thing. It's like people who protest about all the, oh yes, the environment, we've got to do. Oh well, okay. Do you want to not have medicine? Don't have electricity. Don't have that. Yes, we can save this, but you won't have anything, and then people will start dying because we can't get basic health things, to hygiene and all that. But you can do a lot of things to make the world really safe. But it's it all comes at a price. Like somebody was saying ages ago, said, okay, if you want to go back before we had all these carbon emissions and all that, when the life expectancy was 29 years old. Says we've got something out. We do need to do something about the world to keep it good, but as I said, we can't just switch off. If we did it, would all probably perish.
Yeah, nobody wants to do anything in moderation. Like it's all what I want, and here it goes, and everyone else just has to get out of my way. And it's just kind of funny, the extremes that people actually go to try to get their way. It's just doesn't make any sense at all sometimes.
I'm pretty simple. I don't, the people leave me alone. That's fine. I don't protest so much. I just go along with the flow, and fairly easygoing me. So
Oh,
nothing really
go ahead.
me.
Yeah,
I said nothing really upsets me.
Yeah, I try my best to stay out of it as best I can. I have friends that got on Facebook and just blistered the airwaves with stuff, and I just stayed out of it completely, hoping I wouldn't lose friends over it one way or the other. Getting on there and people have a right to get on there and say what they want, but it's not, why do I need to get on there and yell about stuff? I would say very, very few minds were changed on Facebook. They just enjoyed the arguing.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
My number one thing with everything of this is, would you get upset if this feed was put onto the national news at night?
Oh, they hoped it would.
You see that? But as I said, just think about what you're saying today was online. And I know when some people come to get employment and job, the first thing I do is type the name in to the old Google machine and see what comes up. And if you're hiring somebody and you just say, what?
Yeah.
And it's what are they going to say about me or something? Or what are they going to do? It comes back and bites me. And I think I've said this once before. One of our politicians wanted to go was going to be appointed foreign minister. I think they still did do him. But then he was saying something horrible on Facebook, 5 years ago, which didn't look very good for being a foreign minister. But as I said, it comes back. It doesn't go away, no matter what. If you delete, somebody's got a copy of it somewhere. And as I said, you've already said it. So you just got to be professional, even in your personal life, really, haven't you?
That was what was so hilarious about Trump, is the fact that Hillary, over her entire lifetime, has been trained from square one to be careful what you say, only say politically correct things, say all this. Well, Trump, he spent his whole life just rip-roaring, having a good time and doing his business and not really ever thinking about being president. And then all of a sudden, everybody thinks just on a lark, he just, oh, okay, I'll run for president. And never thought he would get as far as he did. Even up to the morning of the election, he didn't think he was going to win. And Hillary didn't think it just shocked everybody whenever he, pulled that out like that. And so he wasn't careful about anything he ever said. And then what was hilarious, though, and probably what got him more votes, was the fact that he said, yeah, I said that. But he never tried to deny it. There was no special little political thing he tried to do. He just, this is who I am, and here we go. And just basically speaking what he thought instead of trying to be politically pleasing or, politically correct. That's, I think, people didn't necessarily like what he was saying as much as it was. They just thought it was cool that he didn't care what people thought. And that's so refreshing in politics.
And it is quite amazing how, when you really go out to get something, how bad a job you can do with when you don't really care too much. Like he did, as I said, but he was himself, and I think that's what got him a lot of votes, was because people started seeing normal politician and, he said that. No politician ever says that. Maybe he's going to tell the truth. Because what I love listening to in political things, interviews, is when somebody says, did you do that? Yes or no? and you never hear the word yes or no. Well, you see, in the fabric of time, when it comes down to it, you've got to take the political correctness of the attitude of the American people before you go, thank you, and then they just fill it up
world
until
peace.
they.
Yep.
But it said, and then the interviewer said, "Now, what did I ask the question?" And I think they're really talented, some of these people. I thought, how do they do that? Do a whole, and I thought, it's just some of them are so eloquent, and I thought they've never answered the question at all, and it was a simple yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get back to the end of it, said, and some of them said, "Yeah, that's all well and good, but back to the question."
Just ask the same question. Yeah.
Well, I think that's very good. You asked me that. That is the one, but we'll see what happens in the future when we've done this, and they still never answer it. So that and then the interview always gives up because they know as well. Nearly all feeds they've got a certain amount of time, and they know that they're not going to give them half an hour and keep going until they get the answer. They'll know that. And they said people are getting fed up of this. Let's cut to something else. So But it's just quite. I always love watching when they've got a nice yes or no question when they've done something really bad, and But then Trump just, I did.
Well, but the thing is, it also tells you something about the candidate if they beat around the bush 3 times, and then they don't have to ask the question anymore because everybody knows what the answer is by then. It's just the way it is. I had an interesting thing happen. Remember I told you that, I've let some domain names, some .coms expire that I had. I got an email the other day trying to sell one of them to me.
Oh.
Because I hadn't hidden my identity on the .coms that I had. And these here were just this, there were 3 of them that were a throw-in deal with the original .com that I got. And so they offered me the .net, and this was about a month after this one expired and was just off my record. I guess they bought the .net thinking that I still have the .com. So they looked at the records and could see that I still had the .com. So, he'll have to want the .net. He probably didn't mean for that to expire. Then I didn't even answer it. It was just like,
offering it dearer than you could have bought it normally.
Well, we didn't even get to that point. They just offered it to me and said they thought that, since I had the .com, I might want this, and didn't say that they just noticed it expired, but hey, you could really have this. And I guarantee it would have been more, than what it was, but I never even answered them. I didn't get a second email. I figured they would, but I mean, just think of them wasting, I'm assuming because I still have the .com, it's going to expire, in a year, but I haven't, I still had that. So evidently I didn't mean for this other one to expire. Oh my goodness. So they put the money into it and now they're just holding it. So,
maybe maybe they've just emailed 25 million people anyway to see how much.
Yeah, but I mean, but that one is specifically the one I just let expire, and I can't imagine anybody else would want it because it has the blab in the title. It was I was thinking about a blab show back a year ago that would involve reading classic stories or something, actually doing a video show reading some classic stories or something like that, public domain stuff. And I was going to call it Story Blab. So storyblab.net. I bought the .com, just on a whim. I did it while I was still on a blab. Oh, hey, I think I'll do that. And so I just went ahead and did that. And then for $10 more, I got 3 more like .net.
You could resist that, could you?
No. So I threw $10 into it, and then I didn't do anything with it. Blab died. I didn't do anything with it, and then I let it expire. And then all of a sudden, I guess since I still had the .com, I must not have meant for that to expire, so they bought it and then offered it to me.
And if you said, I do want it, now how much you're prepared to pay for it?
Yeah, I wasn't even going to talk to him about that. That's funny. But if they, on GoDaddy, it's for 2 years you can get it for $18 or something, or 17 something, because the first year is $2.99 and the second year is $14.95 or something like that. And so, but you have to buy 2 years. So, you've got about $17 into it. If they bought that and paid that for it, then surely, then they sent me an email. So they have nothing more than the cost of the thing. So they could have charged me $50 for it. And I don't know if there's any fees for the transfer or anything, a private transfer, but I mean, they could have made a little money off of it if I was desperate, but Blab doesn't exist anymore. So there's no reason for that.
No, like my one that I use here is called crazydomains.com.au.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's called, the Australian one. And I bought my things through them at a very reasonable price, but even for the web hosting, because I get my web hosting for the website through there.
Okay.
And it was something ridiculous, like it worked out to about, it was say $7 a month or something, unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
But if you paid for 10 years, it worked out to about $2 a month.
Oh, wow.
So about $550 for 10 years, unlimited space. And I thought, you can't get much better than that. And I thought, for 10 years, what do you get for $500 for 10 years? And I thought, so it worked out to about $2.99 or something a month. And so you've got no restrictions on the what you put up on the site. And that, so I thought, because you had another cheaper one that was $1.50 worked out a month, but it had a cap. But I thought, not that I'm going to use that, but if you don't have to worry about what you're putting up, you can put up. Or so.
Mine, I got a special fancy. It was at HostGator, is where mine's hosted at, and it is. It was a special fancy. I can't remember, 75% off or something like that. It was a 3-year deal. On St. Patrick's Day or something. And I think I paid $80 some for 3 years.
Oh, that's not too bad, is it?
No. Now, that was that special deal. Now, to renew it, I think it's going to be about, and I've got until next year, it's going to be $225 or something to renew it for another 3 years. Is the way it goes.
Yeah, but
so, yeah.
Some people said, oh, why paying that much for all? What if they go broke? So for $550, you can take that risk, can't you?
Yeah.
And you pay. And it's one of the main ones, but the thing is with anything in Australia that's got .com.au, anything, you can't get a .com.au address without a registered ABN number that's registered with the government.
Oh, wow.
So, like, anybody can get a .com, like your pussycat can phone up and get a .com domain. You can do anything.
Mine has.
Whereas in Australian one, you've got to have a registered business number to get a .com.au. So you already know that, but when you're dealing with somebody with a .com.au, at least they're a proper business and not just somebody, just because you could have somebody hosting a website and they're just doing it to get the money in and then just going to pull the plug.
But at least fly by night. Well, I didn't realize that actually makes it very, that AU. I always wondered, why would somebody want to type .us or .au or whatever like that, but if it is actually a certification from the government that you're legit, now I can totally see that.
Well, that's where because if you want it, because everybody knows if it's .com.au, well, it's here. Whereas if it's .com, you assume it's somebody overseas. And because America started, that's why you don't have a thing on the end, because that's where it started, I suppose. You never have .com.us, do you?
No, you can just plain .us if you want to, so everybody knows.
Yeah, new ones now, isn't it? So
that seems like one of the more useless, extensions. .us, like you say, since it kind of originated around here and the .coms and stuff like that. But just .us, you can do it. But one of the things I've noticed that people, .net is getting almost as big as .com. I've never registered as my primary anything but a .com, and I have a few of those. But .net's just as good. But I've noticed a lot of the even anybody that does anything video, audio and video, and some plain podcasters, I don't know if they got YouTube channels or what, but they'll say .tv.
Oh,
which there is one find weird.
TV. Yeah. There's quite a few different ones out now. Like I can get one Geoff Blanchard Melbourne or something like that. You can get different really strange ones now. But I thought you don't want these fancy ones because people just know your name .com. And then maybe a little bit, as I said, you get too much. Like some of the education ones here are .com, .au, .edt, .ad, .adu for education. And you think, how is everybody going to remember that when they're just typing it in? So
they almost always say .com first, and then if it's not there, then they go find somewhere else. You know, but yeah, I've stuck with .coms even in the
Mm.
naming of a podcast, or I make sure I can get the .com before I start, working on the episodes, just to make absolutely sure, because I want it to be the name of the show.com.
Yeah, that's the best way, because it's easier to roll off the tongue, and everybody's used to that, and that's the first thing they'll try and type in. And the amount of times I've done that, that's got nothing to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's just .com, not .net.
There's something now you almost have to do a sentence,
Mm.
though, to do it. Like the other day I was thinking, well, wouldn't it be funny to have a show that, just on a whim, I was looking at what was available. Wouldn't it be funny to have a show where you read early documents from, letters written from one, founding father to the other, or speeches given in Congress, things like that. Just, kind of short form stuff that is no longer considered politically correct. Don't give any commentary, just read it, so that, history, the whole point at the front, you give a little thing that, so history doesn't repeat itself. You really need to know where we came from instead of using political correctness to suppress it. Let's put this stuff out there so that people know where we came from, and the fact that the lessons that we have today and what we've learned is right and wrong is based on the mistakes that they made. And so, do that. And I was thinking, well, okay, politicallyincorrecthistory.com. Well, yeah, that's available, but boy, is that long.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a very, very long thing for people to have to type in.
You could do this show dressed up as Abraham Lincoln.
That's funny, because when I was in high school, I dressed up like Patrick Henry and did a dramatic recitation of Patrick Henry's address.
Mm.
I won on a speech category on the state level, and I actually got 6th place in the nation with it. So it was kind of an interesting thing. And I'm screaming and hollering and everything. Got my little ponytail going back here.
You're going to reprise that role and do it on the podcast, on the video cast. You're going to have to do that for me and recite it.
Oh, you're kidding? Okay. Like right now?
No, you've got to get dressed up and do it.
Oh, yeah. I don't believe me. It wouldn't fit me. I weigh a lot more than I did whenever I was in high school. The costume's not available anymore.
No. We've all grown a little bit more since school days, and that's.
I grew in two directions. Yeah.
Not wider, just taller we are. So
well, no, I grew quite a bit wider, but I actually grew a couple inches taller. I was 17 when I graduated from high school, which is normally 18 going on 19 whenever you graduate. So I was 17 when I graduated. And so I played basketball in high school. I really could have used the extra inch or two. But after I got married right after I turned 20. So I got married pretty young. I actually grew taller after I got married.
Well, that's better rather than shrinking 2 inches when you got married.
Well, that's on its way. I guess later on, as I get more arthritic, I'm sure I'll be shrinking some. But my wife, my wife's tall. She's like about 5'9". She always wanted to marry somebody that could pick her up and, like Hoss Cartwright, very nice to women, capable of sweeping her off her feet and carrying her across the threshold and stuff like that. And he wasn't available, so she settled for me.
Oh,
but she was glad that I grew a little taller after we got married. So
I'm just imagining that, you're getting married. Geoff, you've grown taller.
Yeah, all of a sudden, she's actually looking at my nose instead of looking me in the eye. No, she always wanted me to be taller than her in any case. However it went, that was just her inclination, because they didn't even make clothes long enough for her hardly whenever she was younger, because she was so tall. Now our daughter, she's like 5'10". And so, she's even taller. It was fashionable then, and it was easy to find clothes to fit her. But my wife,
back then we had high heels then, didn't we? Men did that.
I did have a pair of shoes. Okay, I will admit I did have a pair of shoes that had a little bit of heel on it. It was kind of funny. One day I was at school and the heel broke off and went sliding across the gym floor. It was kind of
she shrunk 6 inches.
Yeah, I mean, how many men that says they broke the heel on their shoe? Because women have that problem. Yes, I actually broke a heel on my shoe. So
I can't remember. It just really, I just think, oh God, did we ever wear those platform shoes back in the 70s? And I thought we couldn't go out. Everybody was 6 inches taller, weren't they? Then you thought. Then when you all came down to the normal shoe, everybody was so short. Then
Well,
everybody
was
was 6 inches tall.
Oh, yeah, it was bad because you were tall while you were walking around, and then when we went to play basketball, you put on your tennis shoes and you were short again. And that's when you needed the height,
I just don't know how we ever did it, because it must have been so dangerous, so awkward to stand, because it weren't like the women's where they're sort of standing on tippy toes. It was just like big chunks of like wood on the bottom of these shoes, weren't they? They were horrible and hideous. So I thought, anyway, they say what goes around comes around. I don't think they'll ever come back again, though.
Not for men, I don't think. A lot of the women's fashions we've seen, a lot of that stuff coming around in the 80s was when we met and got married, and so women actually wore clothes then. I mean, skirts were down below the knees, and yeah, it was kind of interesting. Skirts were down below the knees. They actually, had full clothing on any more than they do today. And so we were watching what happens is I sleep during the day and I work at night. So I get up at about 5 o'clock and we have enough time to eat dinner. And we usually have an older series on Netflix that we're watching. So we'll watch an episode. We're watching Murder, She Wrote, which was in the 80s.
Angela Lansbury.
Yes, Angela Lansbury. And so seeing how everybody's dressed, that's the way my wife was dressing when we met. And so it's kind of cool. We're getting to see a lot of the old cars and, a lot of the old fashions and stuff like that. Of course, men still wearing suits with ties, wider or thinner based on whatever's going on. But other than that, there's not much change in what the men are wearing. But the women are wearing those, big clothes and big hair and, all that stuff. And so, it's kind of nostalgic. You're kind of stepping back in time, back when we were married,
You didn't? Do you ever watch Larry? You never used to watch the Digital Production Buzz, did you, with Larry Jordan in Los Angeles?
I don't remember that.
No, because he used to do one with oh God, what's his name again? I just had it in my head then. But he used to do a co-host. His co-host was it out of Murder, She Wrote? What's Jessica's nephew? What's his name?
Well, they on there. I don't know what his name as an actor was, but on there they call him Clancy. Is it Clancy?
I don't know. Oh, I forget what it is, but it's. I just had his name in my head then. I just knew what his name was, but I just lost it. Not the actor as well. So, but he gave up acting. Years ago. So he was in Star Trek as well, in one of the movies, and that. But he gave up that to more the other side of it, because he'd had enough with the acting side. But he'd done tons of TV and that. So Michael Horton, that's his name, Michael Horton, and he did the co-host that, and he did an ever so good job with Larry Jordan on the Digital Production Buzz, talking about different film techniques. And audio and things, and it was sort of for the industry, but there was a lot of good things out just for me and you type things. But yeah, I've got all the Jessica Fletcher's ones because I used to like all them. But she's still on the go, isn't she?
Yes, actually, I saw a thing where she was in her 80s. I think she's 90 now or something, but I think she was in her 80s, and she went ahead and came back out and on stage was singing the Beauty and the Beast, song that she had done in the Disney movie, and she was talking about the Cockney accent that she assumed for that, and there was this lady that she knew when she was growing up that had the accent, and she said that's exactly who she had in mind, and that's the accent she put on to play Mrs. Potts in the Disney movie, and then she sang the song that way too. And she actually got up, and like I say, she's in her 80s, and then I think she was in her 50s. She wasn't 60 yet, I don't think, when she did Murder, She Wrote, but of course that was back in the mid 80s, so it's been a while.
That's right. Yeah, but I always enjoyed them. And did you see on the weekend Kirk Douglas turned 100?
Oh wow, no, I hadn't seen that one.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I thought, oh, I didn't realize he was still on the go. I thought he'd surely passed away years ago, but 100, and rolled him out to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And I thought, my God, still to be walking around and talking at 100 years old. I thought, geez, like George Burns, he was like that, wasn't he? So
Yeah, I had a great grandmother that lived to be like 102, I believe. And my daughter, okay, she's my great grandmother, but she died when my daughter was in her early teens, like 12, 14, right in that area somewhere. And so my daughter had a relationship with her great great grandmother because of how long that she lived. And it was really cool that she was able to do that. My wife, she remembers when she was 12, I think her step grandfather died, and she didn't really have relationships with grandparents because she was like the third child of a second marriage, and so they were all like gone before she was even born. So the idea that our daughter could actually have a relationship with her great great grandmother was really, really exciting.
Yeah, well, I never had any grandparents, who all sort of passed away by the time I was born, because that a lot of them didn't used to last that long, did they? But like when I was a kid, they lived to 62, and that was ancient for them. So
yeah, no, my dad's side of the family, they routinely, my dad's 80. Well, as a matter of fact, on the 19th he'll be 81. That's the same day that they certify the presidential election, coincidentally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. But anyway, he'll be 81, and his family routinely, they live up in their 80s. And my grandmother, his mother, was 94, I think, when she passed away. And so, there's a lot of longevity going on over there. My dad's family, or my mom's family, who I am patterned after, they have a tendency to live up into their 70s, and stuff. So.
But as long as it's a healthy one, and even if you last long, as long as you're healthy, nothing worse than if you're hanging on and you've got very bad health and that. So it's all I always thank the lucky stars every day that you're healthy, and you think about anything else you can moan about, and you said, well, you've got nothing to moan about if you've got your health. That's that number one.
Yeah, we're at a unique time in medical history. They can keep you alive for an extended period of time. They just can't cure anything for you. But they can keep you pumping along. But
well,
they can't cure you.
They've got to keep you around so you're long enough suffering so you can still pay taxes. You see,
that is true. That is true.
You can't get tax out of you once you've gone. Well, they can one big lump sum then get out of you, but I mean, once you're gone.
Have you ever noticed on these election frauds that dead people vote, but dead people never pay taxes? Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And we don't have death duties here anymore. We used to, but you don't get taxed for dying, which you used to.
That's good. That's good. Something else I was going to ask you about. You mentioned something 2 or 3 shows ago about possibly us having our show on Relate Casts. Was there anything happening on that? Is that in the works?
Can do, yes. I'd forgotten because I did a test actually the other week.
Yeah.
So to put it on there, I'd even forgotten about. I'm glad you mentioned that because I could redirect the feed to there the next time. So I'll just change the things, and like where we've got, like say mine, with that one I'll just put instead. I'll put on my top lower third Relate Casts, and that I think I'll put on there. So as well, just to advertise the Relate Corp website as well. So. But we can do that, so I'll just talk to Rick and say we're going to do that because it doesn't conflict because this time of night it's 2:56 a.m. in Los Angeles. So he said, "No, I don't think I'm going to be jumping up at 3 o'clock in the morning and doing a show." He said, "So you'll be pretty right." So
there might actually be a good thing about us doing it at this funny time of the day.
Well, that's right. Yeah, so I'll check with him again. But I thought it might be good just to have it on with all the other ones to add to all the channels there, because I think we'd get probably more viewers from that one as well while looking at the other content as well. But it'd be interesting to see how it goes. And then I could do a copy of that and put it on his Vimeo one as well. We could do the live one and put it on the Vimeo as well. So we'll see what comes of that. And as I said, I did a test so I can broadcast onto his channel. We did a test and set it up the other week, so that went really well. So as I said, we had a few weeks off with his office move, and then we did Tech Down over this week. We're not doing it next week because I've actually got the farrier coming to do the horse on Saturday. So and it's the last time before Christmas, so I've got to get it in done before then, or else his feet will be way overgrown. So I've got to get that done. So I think it looks like the clock on the wall saying nearly that hour's up, because we started a little bit early, didn't we? So
yes, we did.
So as usual, we've gone over. So that was show 28. So
yes,
they're certainly going through them very quickly. 29 coming up the next one. So
well, I promise I don't plan to quit at 100, if that's okay with you.
no, well, I've got to.
One way or the other, I think we'll just keep on going. I was telling my wife, I said, we haven't done this for 2 weeks, and I've really missed this.
Oh, I did too. Because getting back to that, I'm sorry, because as I said, I had a long day and I had about an 18-hour day at work. I got home in time, but I said, I just can't be bothered talking anymore. You'd be. I can't sit there for an hour and pretend to talk. I said, I just don't want to talk to anybody, because you've just been talking all day, and you thought, no, I just want to have a rest. And you just don't realize how draining just working and talking a lot can be, especially when you get on here and want to just talk for an hour. So, right. And then you had an issue last week, didn't you? With,
like work schedule. That was the week after Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and so you cannot imagine the volume of parcels coming through the Postal Service,
and because it's Christmas as well, so
right, because everybody gets those good deals, and then they are buying Christmas gifts early, and just this big deluge of parcels. Whenever we were leaving that day, you look and there was a big line of trucks all the way out the road coming up to the postal plant that were just waiting to get unloaded. It's just very unusual.
I suppose it took you longer to get into your Santa suit when you went to work as well. So with the big sack.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Had to do something like that. That's what all postal workers do at Christmas, don't you?
Oh yeah. Well, there are people running around with Santa hats with lights around them. The industrial powered equipment that pulls different pieces of equipment around, different containers and things. They'll have a light shining through a Santa hat up on top of it. The light to let you know where they're at. And it's pretty festive, I think, at this point at this time of the year.
Anyway, well, thank you, and we'll try and make it again next week, so barring any emergencies coming up, but I hopefully will be here next week. So thank you for everybody for watching and listening, because on the Jeffrey K. Holbrook podcast, and we'll catch you all next week. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening. Links for a free subscription, feedback, and everything else we do is at holbrooknewmedia.com. You can find all things Geoff Blanchard at jeffblanchard.com.